All right, welcome back to Community Real Estate Talk Show. I'm your host, Tyler Freed. Thanks for hanging in there with us today. Really excited, good friend and also a current client of mine, Gavin Anderson, and he is a Division II, Division III, wherever they need him, football referee. And this man has been doing this for a long, long time at such a young age. So I'm interested to hear today, what it's like out there. So Gavin, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Tyler. Great to be here.
Hey, thanks for letting me have you here.
My pleasure.
Hey, I wanted to see, give us some background on how long you've been reffing.
Well, I've been officiating since I was 13, 14 years old, and been officiating football since '96, so I think that's 18 years now, and enjoyed pretty much every minute of it.
Yeah, and you did some stuff with basketball too, right?
Yeah, I've officiated basketball, did baseball for about 12 years, and life gets busy, and so just working football, and been doing that exclusively for the last 6 years.
Is that the most fun to do?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why I stuck with it.
Okay. And then how about the difference between high school and college football? The speed of the game, is it just unreal, or what are you noticing the difference between the two?
Well, I think obviously the athleticism, their ability to make plays, the speed is incredibly different. Even the difference between Division I and Division II, then Division II to the Division III game, there's some differences. And then obviously high school is even, I shouldn't say slower. There's certainly athleticism and great athletes that play high school football, but yeah, the speed of the game in college sports is a lot more. It's a faster game. It's just a faster game.
When you were reffing high school, what conferences were you kind of all over the state, or where?
Yeah, in fact, I still officiate high school.
Okay.
From the SPSL all the way up to like the Wesco Conference, Kinko.
Okay.
I officiated out of the Seattle Pacific Northwest Football Officials Association for high school football, and so that's pretty much King County on up to a little bit of Snohomish County.
What would a typical college game be like that you would go ref?
Going over to like Central Washington University, Western Oregon, PLU, UPS, here locally.
Okay. So what is it like for you as a ref? It seems like, watching on TV, those guys are sprinting constantly when, there's long plays and everything. How do you get ready for that?
Well, you're an athlete, just like the player is. You're an athlete as an official. And I think for the lay fan, it's kind of difficult for them to understand, thinking that there's a bunch of grown men wearing striped shirts running up and down a field and that they're athletes. But, the demands of the game now and how fast it is, like you mentioned before, you really do have to be in tip-top shape to be able to advance and up the ranks of officiating.
As we're talking about, I'm just thinking, you're running down there even if the pass is incomplete, right? Because you're following them line and stuff. So.
Yes, exactly, and we don't have substitutes.
Have you noticed, is there any times you can, kind of outpace some of those wide receivers? Do you think you got it in you to make a career out of it?
Those days are probably numbered. I like the fact that I can keep up with kids that are in shoulder pads and things like that. I take a great pride in working as a referee, and you got to pick six, and I'm getting to the goal line right before or right as they're crossing the goal line. But like I said, I know those days are numbered.
So are you doing line judge stuff, or are you?
There's 7 guys on an officiating crew at the college level. I work as a referee with white hat on some of my games, and otherwise I'm on the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
It just depends on the level of football and where you get assigned.
Take us back to one of your favorite games that you've reffed. I want to hear some good stories here.
Well, I can tell you that I can tell you of 2. The college level, probably my most memorable football game was going over to Helena, Montana back in 2010 and officiating at Carroll College. It was a playoff game in NAIA, and it was 16 below zero with snow. That was a whole heck of a lot of fun. It was an adventure. It's a sheer test of concentration. You're having to deal with the elements a whole heck of a lot more, just like the players are, but they're still out there to play a game, and you still have a job to do. So, as far as college, that one hits me, and I think about it and go, yeah, that's a pretty memorable experience for me.
Oh my goodness, that had to be a long game for you.
Yeah, and fortunately we were able to, we were taken care of quite well by everyone involved at the school and by the league itself. So we were taken care of. But yeah, there was certainly a trip down to the local sporting goods store where I spent a good amount of money, and getting snow gear because we don't get a whole heck of a lot of that kind of weather locally. But going over to Montana, you had to be prepared.
And what was the other one that came to mind?
Well, and as far as high school is concerned, back in '06, I had the opportunity to work. It was a state quarterfinal game in Bothell and Pasco. And people might remember it as being the 9 overtime game.
Wow.
It was 4 hours and 8 minutes of football. It ended in the end of 4 quarters. It was 14-14. Final score was 43-40 with Bothell beating Pasco. I was the back judge on that game, and had a couple of pretty tight calls, crucial calls, calling back. Remember, I called back a touchdown on an offensive pass interference play that I wasn't making a whole lot of friends over on one side of the field, and there was a college supervisor who was standing right there off on the sideline who saw me make the call, and I like to think that helped me get into officiating at the college level, because the next year I was out on the field working college football.
Nice. What do you say to people that say that refs kind of control the outcome of the game? Has it ever come down to that, or it's really who's more prepared, right?
Well, it's all about the athletes. To say that we don't have an impact on a game, I think is pretty foolish, because we can control the game within the rules. As far as people getting frustrated with how we call a game and how things tend to go their team's way or against their team, we're working as hard as we can to make the game as fair as possible. And I always kind of joke with people where, really, I'm not that good to be able to sit there and look at that, tight call and go, oh, that's for this team or against that team. That just doesn't cross our mind. It just does not cross our mind. And for as imperfect as the athletes are, we're pretty good at what we do and going out and calling a game. And sometimes there are going to be calls that go, your team's way, and there's going to be times where calls don't go your team's way.
Gavin, you mentioned a couple weeks ago that you do some stuff with the Seahawks at their facility there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Coach Carroll brings in local college officials to officiate Seahawks practice.
Okay.
And so we get the opportunity to do that, and it's great to work that level of football. Obviously, it's a lot of fun. Mainly for me, just for the work and being able to, it's not about rubbing elbows. It's about having the opportunity to watch, great football and these guys practicing how they do their job, and being able to have the repetition that I get and going out and hopefully improving how I do my job on a Saturday afternoon.
Is it tough not to get starstruck when you're watching some of those people out there?
Actually, it's pretty easy for me to just sit there and go, no, I got a job to do.
Yeah.
You're standing next to the greatest football players and coaches and everything in the world. But it's pretty easy for me to just go, no, this is my job. I'm going to go out and do my best.
So what's the long-term goal here? Is it to ref in the NFL down the road, or is there possibility you want to stick with college, or what are you thinking?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to referee football.
That's awesome.
Parents and friends and everybody kind of going, why do you want to do that? I don't know why I wanted to start officiating, but I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I'd watch NFL football games, and I'd see guys making calls, and I was like, that'd be a pretty darn cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But as I learned through officiating, really you have to be goal oriented, and for me the next step is to get to Division I football, and so that's really my goal right now is being the best official that I can at the small college level to hopefully be looked at and regarded as one of the top officials at that level to hopefully advance to other conferences, Division I, Division I AA, and things like that.
Is it a complicated process to get bumped up to the next division?
I think it's fair to say there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of guys that want to do, they want to officiate college sports. And you have to be the best of the best at the high school level to be considered to move on to the college level. And then within college you have all sorts of different levels, Division III, NAIA, Division II, and then up to Division I. And so each level along the way, really it's not a complicated process, there's just a dedication involved. You have to obviously spend time studying rules. There's a rule book that sits in my bedroom next to my bed. There's a rule book on my Kindle. I've got a rule book that's around in my car, and being able to study that and tests and things like that. You have to know the rules, study film, things like that, and so it's intense. Definitely an intense thing to be competitive.
To all the listeners just joining us, you're listening to Community Real Estate Talk Show, and I've got Gavin Anderson here with me right now. He's talking about being a collegiate referee, and we're just kind of learning the ins and outs of it. What if people are listening and they want to get involved in it? What's a good place to start?
Well, the best place to start is really at the, for me, I think, is at the high school level. You know, you're going to have little league sports, rec sports, and things like that, but there's always that need for officials at the high school level, and starting out doing, freshman, sophomore, and then up to JV and varsity. But there's always a need for officials at all sports at the high school level, and the best way to, depending on whether you live in Tacoma, Seattle, wherever you're listening, is to go through the Washington Officials Association and finding out the best point of contact for each local officiating group or association.
Gavin, you've been doing this for a long time. What did we decide, 18 years?
I started officiating 93, 94 with doing rec basketball, and started doing high school football in 96, so yeah, it's I think 18 years.
What do you think, what is the difference between then and now in terms of the caliber of athletes?
I think as everything evolves, I just see so much more skill at the high school level today than I did, almost 20 years ago. It's so much more specialized. You have the kids that are training year-round as opposed to being able to be, more seasonal in how they compete at the high school level. High school football it's a great product. I really enjoy working those games, but really the way that the game has changed is just its sheer speed, and now unfortunately you see a lot more of the targeting fouls, and a lot of the things involved with the head and concussions. It's great that there's more concussion awareness now, where kids are really looked at and examined when they suffer a head injury, where things like that just didn't happen 20 years ago.
Gavin, are the fans much of an issue? I mean, have you seen that lately in the last few years doing this? Are they more boisterous?
Well, as far as football is concerned, they're usually a pretty good distance away.
Yeah.
So I got that going for me.
Yeah.
But as you're leaving the field, you're always going to have a passionate fan that might try and say something to you or whatever. But usually we're pretty well protected, especially at the college level where people can stay away from you. But there are people that are fans, and they're fans of their team. They're not necessarily fans of the officials, and they want their team to win. And obviously, I understand that. I just got to call it as I see it.
And we kind of touched a little bit about the pregame in terms of you guys training as athletes and everything. What is your kind of pregame ritual before a game starts?
Well, it depends on the level.
Okay.
I don't think that the average fan or even the coaches or the players really know that, for a high school football game that starts at 7 o'clock, the officials are showing up at about 5:15 or 5:30, and they have a pregame meeting that lasts about an hour, that they're getting their head taken out of doing their 9 to 5 job and start to think about football, and then you get out onto the field a half hour before kickoff. And on a Saturday for high school or for college games, I might leave the house at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we have to get to the city about 3 hours before kickoff, and we're doing something, whether it's talking about the game and what we're going to do and where we're going to be and how we can depend on each other, all the way up to kickoff. But we have a number of different roles and responsibilities depending on the job that you have on that crew that you have to get done before the game even gets started. So there's a lot involved. We don't just show up in our stripes. We don't just get out of our car and take off our street clothes and walk out onto the field. There's a whole heck of a lot involved.
You have to have been into some cool stadiums. Any pop to mind that really just bounce out at you?
Well, I've had the opportunity to officiate at CenturyLink. I've umpired, or I guess, CenturyLink. So, worked high school football there. my favorite college venue, and it's not anything that's big or too fancy, but I like going over to Spokane to Whitworth, the Pine Bowl. It's just a great atmosphere. It's a fun place to work. So yeah, I've had the opportunity to work all sorts of different places based on the sport. You know, working state finals in the Tacoma Dome or at Safeco Field for baseball. You know, it's a lot of fun, but you know, the excitement of working in a specific area, it lasts right up until about the coin toss or when we're exchanging lineups, and it's a 100-yard football field, and gotta go out and do your job.
So what about in terms of, you know, say you make it to the NFL, do they relocate you, or is that just a period of time that you spend out at games like athletes, or how does that work?
You know, as far as the guys that work at that level, and even working as a Division I official, you live where you live.
Okay.
And you just travel where you need to go. You might be in, you know, for the Pac-12, you might have a week where you're going to Eugene, then the next week you're going to Los Angeles, after that you're going to Pullman, you're going to Tucson, whatever it might be. It's just week to week.
Okay.
You're getting a lot of airline miles.
Oh, perfect. Sounds like amazing, and just the amount of growth you've had in doing it is just incredible, just especially at your young age, and I'm hoping to see you in the Super Bowl someday. That's what I would like to see.
That'd be a heck of a lot of fun. It's a long ways away, but yeah, that'd be a pretty cool thing to do.
Awesome. Well, Gavin, I really appreciate you joining me today and taking some time to come and tell us a little bit about reffing, and hopefully we can have you back on soon.
All right, sounds good, Tyler.